The crew of STS-124. STS-124 is the 26th shuttle mission to the International Space Station and is the second of 3 flights to deliver components for the Kibo laboratory. The mission will include 2 spacewalks to install the new lab and its remote manipulator system. The lab's logistic module, which was installed in a temporary location during STS-123, will be attached to the new lab. Astronaut Mark Kelly will command the STS-124 shuttle mission. Ken Ham will serve as the pilot. Mission specialists are NASA astronauts Karen Nyberg, Ron Garan, and Mike Fossum. Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Akihiko Hoshide also will serve as a mission specialist. Astronaut Greg Shamatoff will fly with the STS-124 crew as a mission specialist before taking astronaut Garrett Reisman's place as an Expedition 17 flight engineer on the International Space Station. For more information, log on to www.nasa.gov/shuttle.
I grew up originally in New Jersey. When I graduated high school, I went to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, but very quickly realized I wanted to fly airplanes in the Navy, fly off aircraft carriers, and that's what I did upon graduation. I went down to Pensacola, went through flight school, eventually was on the USS Midway, flying off the ship. Later became a test pilot, went to grad school, and then found myself here in 1996, and I've flown a couple space flights since then. My first 2 flights, I was the pilot on Endeavour in 2001, Discovery in 2006. Being the commander is different in that you're responsible for the overall mission rather than just having your piece of the pie. You got to worry about the whole thing. The training your other crew members are getting, mission success, mission safety. So it is a more comprehensive job. It requires more time. I'm really surprised at, a little bit surprised at, how much more there is to it. But I think it's more rewarding as well. This will be my 3rd flight on the space shuttle. First 2 I flew as a pilot, and this is my first flight as the commander. Second time I'm flying on Discovery. When we start retiring the space shuttles in 2010, the last flight is now planned to be sometime in 2010, probably towards the end of it. I'm certainly going to feel a little sad about seeing the shuttle era end. I've spent a lot of time learning how to operate and fly the space shuttle. And all those skills are, even though they're transferable to other things, there's all this knowledge that I'm not going to need anymore. So it's a little bit sad in that regard. Right. But we are moving on, and we're going to be doing some more exciting stuff. We're building a vehicle that we can take to the moon. And when we get to the moon, we're going to learn what we need to do to go on to Mars. And, that's really important exploration. So while I'm a little bit sad the shuttle's going to be going away, I'm excited about what's to come later.
Should have been really cold in the van.
You can either use the knife in your shoe or the standard box. Pull it out here.
Soaked in. They are portable. You can disconnect. There's a battery charger on the back. You want to take this, you'll have a red light and the meter will go up and it will alarm, and you'll hear the alarm when it starts to do that, okay? So that's one of the things.
Thanks for riding along. I just saw it was your back of your helmet.
I remember specifically a day where I was sitting in the office of my guidance counselor in high school, and he asked me what I wanted to do for a living, and I told him I had no idea. And then he rephrased the question and said, well, what is it that you like to do? And I said, well, I like to fly. I am the cheerleader on the crew. And that's kind of a weak explanation of my role on the crew, but I do enjoy trying to keep people happy and sort of emotionally oriented on where we're trying to go and what we're trying to do. And I don't know if people would characterize me that way, but I would like to fill that role. If anyone's familiar with the space shuttle, you'll know that the cockpit is really divided in two sides. There's a pilot side and a commander side, and the systems that are accessible on the pilot side are not from the commander side. So I am responsible for all those systems. The orbital maneuvering system engines, the reaction control system thrusters, the auxiliary power units, the main engines, all the electrical buses, all that kind of stuff is on my side. And my responsibility with those is essentially to make sure that they are operated correctly and safely. For undocking, it's sort of my chance to do some manual flying and actually be a pilot, which is a great tradition. I don't know where it began, but whoever started it, I'm thankful. But I'll be able to do the manual flying for the undocking phase, which, if everything goes well and we have enough propellant, we should be able to undock, go out to about 600 feet and fly a full 360-degree trajectory around space station while we get to take some pictures of it and document where everything is.
That'll work. Supposed to get out of this.
Yeah, but I don't think he can actually hold it. Only one person can hold it.
Yep. You're up. 50. Well, you have it.
I grew up in a very, very small town in Minnesota, central Minnesota. The town, it's called Vining. It's, since I can remember, it's been less than 100 people, very, very small. And my family lived, my parents still live, in a house outside of town on a lake in the country. And the town that I went to school in is a neighboring town, and it's one school was kindergarten through 12th grade. So, and I went to school with pretty much the same people my entire life. I decided when I was a little kid that I wanted to be an astronaut, and honestly I can't pinpoint an event or a person or anything that made me decide that. I just decided that that's what I wanted to do, and I kind of kept that with me. And most of my friends in high school knew that's what I wanted to do. They used to call me the rocket scientist. I'll have the opportunity to operate all 3 robotic arms that will be on station at the time. I'll work the shuttle robotic arm, the space station robotic arm, and the new Japanese robotic arm. So that'll be some of my main tasks. Also, along with Aki, he and I are going to be the prime crew members to get the Japanese module installed and up and running. After this mission, the space station is going to be very close to its completed state, and I hope that at that point we can actually utilize it to do the things that it was meant to be for, all of the science that originally it was intended for. And also, I hope that it can be used, and it will be, to look at the effects of microgravity on humans, which is very important for the future, what we plan on doing, and sending humans back to the moon and even on farther where really we're going to be in microgravity for very long periods of time. And so it's actually pretty exciting to see the space station close to its final configuration, so that it can be used in the way that it was originally intended.
Hey, we wanted a long...
So this is the line come from 0B. Okay.
started your TIG.
Turn off the back clock?
Yeah.
Last time you said the first clock, but usually set the clock.
It's the way the captive feature works. Actually, once you pull it out, I think it'll, you can look at it and it'll be a little bit more obvious.
I remember I was a sophomore in college when STS-1 landed, and I distinctly remember again thinking, wow, this is what I want to do. And the very next day I went to my advisors and I started taking math and science courses, or enrolling in math and science courses, and I think, I mean, that's my path to how I got to become an astronaut, or the start of that path. But what it also shows is how important the space program is to education, and to encourage people or encourage students to pursue math and science. And so I think that was a pretty, you know, at least from my own personal experience, I think that was a pretty compelling tribute to the space program. I'm doing my fantasy job right now, my dream job. This is all I ever wanted to do, and I'm really, really fortunate to do that. But I, of course, think, you know, I can't do this forever. And one of the things, you know, when I speak at different places, some people ask who are my heroes. Mm-hmm. And when I think about that, some of my heroes are teachers. And I really think that teachers have a wonderful opportunity to really affect the world and affect our future, and how important our kids are for our future. So, you know, down the road, I'd probably like to get into some kind of teaching or coaching, you know, later in life, I think. Mike Fossum, who's the EV1, my spacewalk lead, mm-hmm. Has tried to, you know, tell me what it's going to be like, and I anticipate that it'll be very overwhelming. The view, just the fact that this whole massive station is out there in front of you. You know, we've trained it in the pool, but it's just not the same. And it's very close, but it's not the same as, you know, when you step out of the airlock in the pool, the floor of the pool, the bottom of the pool is, you know, 10 feet below or 5 feet below you. When you step out here, you know, the Earth is 250 miles below you or above you, depending on how you want to look at it. So that's going to be a little overwhelming, I anticipate. But we've got a lot of work to do, and, you know, what's going to get me, you know, on the step is going to be to get to work real fast and just to get our job done and start, you know, getting all the objectives met that we are set out to achieve, because it's a very, very challenging set of spacewalks that we're doing.
I grew up in the space program. I was born just a couple of months after Sputnik launched, and so the space program was a part of my life from the very beginning. And in my house, my dad really thought that the space program was important, and he encouraged us to pay attention and would get us up at night to watch important events and things like that. And so, like every other red-blooded kid in America, I grew up, you know, dreaming about someday being an astronaut, and never completely gave up on that dream. I like the sense of adventure. I like the challenge. I like the teamwork and the fact that there's so many people that are working together to make this happen. I worked with some of the early shuttle astronauts, and two in particular really encouraged me to apply, and that it convinced me that I could be sitting in their seat in a few years. They were Jerry Ross and Ellison Onizuka, a couple of Air Force flight test engineers who were mission specialists. And they encouraged me to apply to test pilot school as a flight test engineer. So I did that, went to Edwards for a year of training, and then worked in flight test for a total of about 8 years. Eventually found my way, left active duty Air Force, and found my way back to NASA, where I worked as an engineer here for a few years before finally being selected in 1998 to begin astronaut training. My main responsibilities for this mission
are twofold. One is I'm one of the experienced astronauts, and so I'm working with my comrades, my crewmates, to help them understand the intricacies and what it's really like to live and work in space. There's some things they can train us for, but there's some things you just have to be there and experience it to help guide each other through that experience. Really, my biggest responsibility on the mission, though, is as the lead spacewalker. We have 3 spacewalks planned for this mission, and so I'm the lead for those and helping with my EVA partner, Ron Guerin, and we're working together and training together and going through all of those details and training in a number of different venues to get ourselves prepared to go get the job done. I was in graduate school when STS-1 launched and was cheering and excited about it. For STS-2, I was down at the Cape in there with a bunch of buddies down to watch the launch. By STS-3, I was working in the back rooms of Mission Control on loan here at JSC. So I've been around since the STS single-digit days. Of course, I was very, very young back then. And here we are, and we're looking at the end. It's 2008, and we're looking at. We will be shutting the shuttle line down, in 2 years, and that's still a little hard to grasp. It's bittersweet, but I think in a lot of ways the space shuttle was built for this mission, to build the space station. We're finally seeing that dream, come true. And we're realizing the fulfillment of that dream, of that design objective for the space shuttle.
Yeah. Ready for the line? Okay, so the line. Hold on. Smile pretty. Oh, so far it's
Yeah, right.
We stepping up in through the hatch there, just. I think Adam said wanted everyone to look out the window first.
When I was small, from age 3 to 7, I lived in New Jersey. My father worked in New York, and he took me down to Kennedy Space Center one time, and that had a huge impact. And I also watched, science fiction movies, animation cartoons, and watched Star Trek, Star Wars. All that influenced me. And by the time I was probably 10, I was set for space. Once I thought about going to space program. Originally, I was thinking about being an astronaut when our first JAX astronauts were selected. But at that time, I thought, I was in high school, and I thought, well, this is only a one-time thing for Japan. After a while, on a newspaper article, it said that NASA, at that time the Japanese Space Agency, is thinking about having a next selection. So at that time, I thought, this could be a career. And after that, I just pursued, and when I was in college, the next selection happened. And I tried to apply, but I didn't have the right certification. So instead of going to a different area, I decided to join the Japanese Space Agency and wait for my turn. This is a big step for the Japanese community, the science community especially, because that means that they can start their own science And we also have the payload open to any other partners in the station program. So we'll be conducting different experiments for everywhere. This will be a new experience for the Japanese flight controller team. But I think in any case, in the past, we've been prepared and been inventive once something happens, and we overcame that challenge. I think that's the main advantage of human space flight. If it's unmanned, then you have some limitations, and if it's a manned human space flight, then you do have some capability that no one really thought of, but you can do that real time.
What are we missing?
RTL 2.
RTL 2. So...
Actually, I've wanted to do this my whole life, it seems. We went to Florida for a family vacation. When I was 6 years old, we saw the launch of Apollo 11 by chance. And my dad was always very excited about the space program, and I told him then that's what I want to do, and kind of never gave up on that. And I guess I have to admit that I kind of grew up on Star Trek. And but a funny thing about that is that my dad went to the same high school as William Shatner at the same time, and you know, I don't know how well they knew each other, but he knew him, and so as a little kid, even though I'm watching science fiction, there's something real that my dad knows this guy, and here look at what he's doing, and so I don't know if that somehow blurred the lines for me of what's possible or not, but it's something I've always wanted to do, and my dad, I think, was also an inspiration too. He used to look at at that time, look at pictures of mission control, and he would say, who are those guys? How do they get to work there? That's the best job in the world. How do they get to do that? And so I was always very interested, and I think inspired by his excitement about it too. Mission 17, it's actually a big transition point for the space station program, because we're going to have all the international partners involved at this point. The Japanese module will be on board, as well as the Columbus European module. And so at the beginning of my expedition, we're bringing up the Japanese module, and so installing and activating that module is a big part of the mission. And then as part of Expedition 17, we're transitioning to a 6-person crew. A lot of the equipment for that will come up during the next shuttle mission. And so for those two reasons, sort of having the most capability on board with all the international partners involved and transitioning to a 6-person crew, these are big steps for the space station program. I'll be working on European, Japanese, and American experiments. And, but the range is huge. It includes Earth observations, which is very important because we have a perspective from the space station that can't necessarily get from satellites. And we can also see phenomenon that at certain angles and in a timely fashion pick up something that's happening, like a current event, like a volcano or fire or something. So Earth observations is a big one, and that's been ongoing for a long time. Of course, there's experiments outside the space station. We already touched on some of those, that some of those could be automated or run from the ground and may not require any crew interaction at all, but there's control centers all over the world running them. And they're studying solar physics and space physics and the environment, looking at debris fields around the Earth and modeling that. And so there's a lot of things like that. But internally, you know, of course, there's biology other than human biology. There's chemistry, material science, there's fluid physics. So there's a wide range of different things. Maybe a couple of examples of ones that are interesting to me. One of them that has been kind of a favorite of folks is called Spheres. It's basically a free-flying robot, essentially, or a couple of them that can do formation flying. And you know, ultimately, we like to think of robots being able to help us in zero-G environment, or to do stuff, do work outside the space station, or fly in formation with another space vehicle and take care of required tasks outside. So this is an experiment that we can program, and it can do its own task planning and optimization. And actually, I'm excited about this one too, because it's in my field, and I can be a co-investigator. I'll be actually writing some algorithms for that while on board, and hopefully be able to test them and try them out while I'm there.
Greg, how you doing this morning?
Arrow to arrow. When you get a helmet, I gotta come back down. Take you up to the roof.
I'll take you up as far as you want.
All right.
16 feet, Cole? All right. And your leg straps are going to get real snug. Come on over this way a little bit. Right there. Okay, up.